She also helps us out with the Action Club. And we also have as guests Kim Taylor and her son, Jake Taylor, that are going to go ahead and give us some insight as well. So, Grace, you're up.
There we go. All right. Well, thank you guys. It's always fun to hear some updates and learn a lot about what's happening in the community. And I'm grateful that we have this Kiwanis Club. And so thank you for the invite to share a little bit about the ARC. I'm going to do things a little bit backwards in the sense that I've got a presentation, but I want to have, are we good? Okay, just checking. I've got a presentation, but about the ARC a little bit more. So I am going to, let's see where that is. So I'm going to share my screen just for a few minutes, and then I'm going to introduce our two guests and have them speak a little bit more. So we'll do that at the beginning. So just a little bit of a refresher on what the ARC is and who we are. And we're a resource center that ultimately promotes and protects the human rights of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. So that means here locally that we are a staff, a full-time, or not a full-time, a part-time staff of one, and that is me, with an amazing board of directors, which Kim and Jacob are both on our board of directors. And lots of volunteers to support our group. And so the ARC is a national organization you might be aware of, and each county is a little bit different. So there's also not necessarily an ARC in every county. We operate on what we call an advocacy chapter. So that means that we're more of an information center. We do have events, obviously, social type of events, self-advocacy type of events, but we aren't a day program or service provider. So the other type of ARC chapters are called service providers, and they are, for example, Stone Belt. You might have heard of them. They are a service provider. They provide day services, employment training, direct support persons, and have, many staff and actual clients who are visiting them. And so, being a resource center allows us to obviously provide a variety of information and resources for parents, everything from helping parents along the journey of filling out Medicaid information and Social Security, some of these more clunky state programs that are extremely beneficial for their children or themselves. So we help with things like that. And then obviously what we'll talk about a little bit more is we help with the Action Club and self-advocates of tomorrow. So I invited Jake and Kim to talk a little bit to us. I think we still have Kim, I'm not sure. And Jake is a longtime self-advocate, and he's going to tell us a little bit about himself. I think he's got something prepared. And then I'm going to ask him a couple questions, and we're hoping that, as Steve mentioned, we can work on our relationship with you guys in Kiwanis and share and just meet people. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later, but I want to give Jake the opportunity to talk so we don't necessarily have to keep him on the whole time. But Jake, did you have something you wanted to share?
Yeah, me and Mom wrote this last night. So I'm gonna read this. My name is Jacob Taylor. I have been a member of the Advocate for over 10 years since the beginning of our group. I will be 30 years old this October. I graduated from North High School with a certificate of completion. I attended to IP Tech for 1 year after graduation, taking a keyboard class in photography, and I enjoyed both of them. I made 8th grade. My mother was my aide in classes. I was a basketball manager from 5th grade until graduation. And I made a lot of friends doing this, especially in high school. I had special award from the team of senior night. I was in Boy Scout for 8 years, earned many badges, and enjoy camping. Also made new friends. I have not had a paying job, but I do volunteer in the office at Midway Center for 2 years until COVID hit. I also have taken piano lessons for over 10 years. I have participated in Special Olympics for 10 years. I really enjoy the advocate because of the friend I have made learning way to stand up for myself, asking for what I wanted to, I want and I like and enjoy the activities at a cookout, Christmas caroling, and annual award dinner. Thank you to the Kiwanis for supporting our group.
Thank you, Jake. I learned a lot about you as well. I forgot that you were a basketball manager.
Yeah,
That was for Columbus North for the boys basketball team.
yeah,
All right. So if anyone ever went to a game, they might have seen you there.
yeah.
Well, fun. I think you mentioned what have been some of your favorite self-advocate activities?
Well, activity I like the cookout and Christmas caroling and annual award dinner.
Those are all good ones. I know we've had kind of a hard year because we haven't been able to really meet in person very much.
For yeah,
Have we had some good meetings on Zoom?
yeah,
So what was it, 2 weeks ago? I guess it was last month. We had a cooking presentation where
yeah,
Jason, one of our other self-advocates, taught us how to make spaghetti.
yeah. He did.
It wasn't very fair though, because he made a bunch of spaghetti, but we didn't get to eat it because we were on Zoom.
True. That's true.
That's true. What event do we have coming up next week, Jacob?
Next week we're doing the Easter egg hunt.
We are, and so typically we have an annual Disability Awareness Month that's hosted by the ARC and by self-advocates. But because of COVID, we didn't feel comfortable having that, and so we're having an Easter celebration, I guess, at the ARC, actually, outside.
Yeah.
Are we, can you tell us a little bit about the canned goods that we're collecting?
Yes. We're doing door prizes for coupons.
We are doing a door prize as well. If you find the lucky egg, you get a free coupon book, which we're selling through the ARC.
Yeah.
And we're doing a canned good drive. So self-advocates and people are bringing canned goods.
Yeah.
So you can say if the Kiwanis are interested in donating any canned goods, we are collecting those at the ARC and we'll donate those to Love Chapel.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you, Jake, for sharing a little bit about you. I wanted to give your mom a couple minutes to talk. As I mentioned, Jake and Kim are both on our board of directors and have been involved with the ARC and self-advocates for forever, basically. So I invited Kim to share a little bit about her family and their story related to the ARC and self-advocates. Kim, I think you're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, you're good.
Okay, I'm good. My name's Kim Taylor, and of course, that's Jacob, my son. I also have two daughters. Jacob has an older sister and a younger sister, and they've been very involved with his whole development, his whole life, and that's been a very good thing. We have been involved with the Self Advocate since the very beginning. And then when Kiwanis became involved, that was really helpful. And we appreciate all the support that you have given us. And I think this last year, you paid our dues, and we greatly appreciate that. The group has really helped Jacob develop and become more outspoken, given him some confidence, and he's met a lot of new friends. That's been very helpful, and it's just a good activity for him to be involved with. And we've had some politicians come and speak, and that was very informative for him to become more knowledgeable, because we of course encourage everyone. I think everyone in our group is old enough to vote, and so we encourage them to vote every year. And there's speakers that have come, of course, the last year or so. We haven't been able to do that so much, but we've had lots of people from the community come and speak to our group. And we have this core group. We've kind of, our participation's been up and down, but we have this core, probably 8 or 10 self-advocates that always attend. And it's just been a really good thing for Jacob, and all of us, really. We've learned from each other, and we thank you guys for being involved in that. So I don't know if you have any other questions. I'll be happy to answer them.
Yeah, no, I think that's maybe Kim, can you just to remind people maybe when the Self Advocates started, or when did the Self Advocates start their chapter as it is?
Gosh, I was trying to remember that. I think it's been, we were trying to figure at least 10 years ago, because Jacob's been out of school for almost 12 years now, hard to believe. And we started in it, I think he might have still been in high school. I actually don't remember, but we used to meet in the basement of the United Way building. And then we met at the DSI. We've had several different places.
Awesome.
So it's been a long time.
Yeah, and so Self Advocates in the Action Club is geared towards post high school students who, there are many activities during the high school world, and we know going out into that real world after high school, wherever that may be, can be challenging. And so they've been around for a while, and we're trying to figure out always how we can grow and coordinate with the Kiwanis Club. So
yeah, it's like when they graduate. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I wanted to ask where we can bring those cans. What's the physical location of the Ark? Is it over at the United Way?
It is no longer at the United Way. Thank you to the United Way Fire, unfortunately. We are located at Doctors Park. So we're the back building. And if you could bring them on a weekday from 9 to 3, it doesn't matter if the Ark is open. The front door is open. You walk in, and the Ark front door is right there to the left, and you can just set the cans. There's a bucket there.
Okay, thank you.
So,
yeah, I might elaborate on that a little bit, and you might say this later, Grace, but we usually have the Ark dance every year, and we always, the Self Advocate group collects canned goods, and since we aren't able to do that this year, the group decided to incorporate that into our Easter egg celebration. So that's why they're collecting them this month.
Very nice.
So what's the cutoff for that then, as far as turning those in? April, or is it Easter Day, April the 4th, or
let's say
April 2nd?
April 2nd, sure.
Right.
Yeah, we'll take them on. Sounds good. Anyone else have any other questions for Jacob and Kim?
You mentioned your coupon book, a fundraiser. How can we get
yes,
involved with that?
I will talk about that more.
Okay.
So
just a comment before we get off the to the coupon thing. Since we're having our first in-person meeting on April 1st, we could bring cans to that and arrange to have somebody take them out to the Ark.
Yep, that would work. That would work.
Good idea. I had a chance to attend one of the ARC meetings, the last one they had in person. It was in October, and they had a bingo thing. And I can tell that Jacob is a mean bingo player. You don't want to mess with him. He's tough. He knows his bingo games. You got to watch out if you're ever getting a bingo game with him.
Yeah, they've all formed a real good relationship. It's been good for them.
It is.
Well, good. Well, Jake and Kim, I know you guys have busy days, and so I don't want to keep you around. I'm going to talk a little bit more about what the ARC does as a refresher, but you're welcome to stick around or you're welcome to go on to lunch. That's up to you.
No, I've got 3 little babies waiting.
I thought you
so
did.
I'll probably go, but thank you for inviting me. And again, thank you all for your support for our group. And I'll see you later, Jake.
All right.
Thanks, Kim.
Thanks, Kim.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
See you
Jake,
guys.
you're welcome.
Bye, Jake.
See you.
See you later. All right, so I'm going to share just a little bit more. I wanted to give them an opportunity to speak first, a little bit more about the ARC and I'll talk about the coupon books and a little more about the Action Club and some of our, if I don't jump too far ahead, Action Club and some of our plans, hopefully moving forward. So I don't know how long it's been since maybe you've had a presentation from the ARC. And so I just wanted to talk a little bit about the individuals that we serve. And so we tend to serve typically individuals with developmental and intellectual disabilities. And so developmental disabilities can range broadly. The more common ones tend to, I'm going to skip 2 ahead, sorry. The more common ones tend to be Down syndrome and autism. And so many of our families or individuals tend to fall in these 2 categories. Individuals with autism or Down syndrome tend to also have dual diagnoses. So they might additionally have a physical disability, or other individuals with Down syndrome tend to have other heart concerns and other medical concerns related to that as well. And so we, but again, our service is pretty broad as when we think about who we are serving, and quite a few individuals actually, when it comes to statistics, I'll go back to this slide, approximately 26% of our country recognizes that they have some sort of disability. So that doesn't necessarily mean intellectual or developmental, but you know, that could be purely physical, or could be vision or hearing related. And so, but I think it's important to remember that the numbers around this are pretty significant. And then when we think about our individuals, their family members and their friends who are also connected with them, it's a pretty large group of people. And so we're working, you know, with employers and local businesses to everything from how to be just a welcoming atmosphere for people with varying disabilities, to how to be a really good employer for someone with a disability. And so we have our work cut out for those types of things, but I just wanted to share a little bit of this background. And actually another data point that recently, that I don't have on here, that recently has been shared, that about 1 in 54 individuals are diagnosed with some form of autism. And so we're seeing quite a few children in our school system experiencing autism, and families needing support in that way. As we know, with autism, it's a spectrum. And so some families might not need as much support as others, but we're there for when they do need it. Other interesting data that I think is relevant when we start to think about disability connected to the broader community. I think it's interesting that actually a large percentage of our jail population has some sort of cognitive or intellectual disability. This could be mental health related, or just general intellectual disabilities on the spectrum of autism. We find that unfortunately, people maybe on the more high functioning scale of autism or any type of intellectual disability really can sometimes end up in the system much easier. Unfortunately, we're constantly working with our police and training force to better equip them with skills to interact and engage with individuals with intellectual disabilities, and so getting over that hurdle. So it's an interesting thing, and I think we have a lot of parents who are also concerned sometime in this day and age with sending their children who maybe have higher needs but are still independent or have outward behaviors because of their diagnosis. There's worry and concern to allow them just to walk down the street or these things for fear that they might not be understood or assumed that they're causing trouble or something like that. And so these are real issues that we're and concerns we're dealing with in our community. And on top of that, we do see statistically children with or children from families with lower incomes and below the poverty level, there is a higher prevalence of developmental disabilities. Connection to some of this is the ARC used to be more heavily involved with actually the campaign for basically not drinking while you're pregnant. This is obviously evolved as a societal thing, and the understandings around not drinking and smoking while you're pregnant are much more common now, but we still see some of that just I guess unaware maybe of the risks to those things while you're pregnant. And unfortunately that might come with families who don't have access to those educational resources or these types of things. So some of this is a little bit of generalization, but I think it's data is important to understand how this impacts our community. So what we do here at the ARC, Jake and Kim mentioned a little bit about this. We touch on a lot of areas, and I think this past year as I've been here, we're trying to wrap our head around, what do we do best in Columbus or Bartholomew County? The ARC National and DC, they are heavily involved in public policy and how making legislation that affects or how legislation can affect individuals with disabilities. And so we are also involved with public policy and trying to figure out ways how we can be more involved with public policy. And I think that's actually potentially an opportunity for Kiwanis members and how we can connect. We do a lot of letter writing. We typically in a non-COVID year go up to the State House for a day that's specific to lobbying for individuals with developmental disabilities. So we have some areas to grow there as well. Lots of resources, trainings. We just did a training yesterday on guardianship. Lots of concerns in our community about parents who have an aging child and will be 18, and they're concerned whether they need to have guardianship of that individual. We heavily support as well what we call supported decision making, where you don't necessarily have to have guardianship over your child to support them in their journey through life. It's not for everyone, and so it's really a case-by-case basis, is like we like to say, and that's a big thing that as far as providing that process, because it's pretty clunky and involves the court system, we provide some information on that. And then a broader range of self-advocate programming, like we mentioned, awareness events. We are also signed up for Festival of the Young Child because we want to catch parents at that young age, and the school system doesn't always provide all the resources that are needed, and better yet, unfortunately, doctors don't always pay attention as much as they could to those developmental delays. So we're seeing, a parent knows maybe the best needs for their child, but they don't know how to have the conversation with their doctor. Your typical general practitioner might not know all of the developmental delay signs of Down syndrome or autism. And so we're connecting and helping those parents find the right resources. So if their child needs diagnosed or assessed, if they're worried, we can provide that. So quite a few different things. I also want to watch my time. Okay, I'll talk faster. I know you're out of here one. So I've already mentioned this a little bit, but the whole basically premise of what we do is providing a network of individuals to communicate with one another, primarily parents. Parents know the system backwards and forwards, and they can share with other parents. So we also in-house provide help with a Medicaid waiver, with the Medicaid application, SSI, send people to vocational rehab, which provides everything you can imagine, from help with employment training to even support for college education, depending on the situation. So our goal is to connect families and, support them along their journey. I like to include this slide, and it's a little heavy on words, but I'll just talk on it for a minute. And when we think about what is our job as an advocate, and as an advocate, everyone can be an advocate in their own lives in different ways. And our job as an advocate is to provide resources and help people make decisions on their own. And so how can we support and encourage them while challenging them with new information? And we see this a lot in our self-advocates group. We've seen them grow to make decisions on their own about the care that they want or about where they want to live. We just helped a self-advocate find his own apartment at one of the apartment units here locally. I can't think of the name. And he's living on his own. He has a support person or aide come in, I think it's almost every day, just to check in. He walks down to the city bus. He rides to his job at Special Dogs and More. And he's actively living and contributing to our community. And so how can we support that inclusion? And that's really our mission here at the ARC. I also shamelessly borrowed this from another organization because I really like just the visual and the journey where we're going. Equity and inclusion is the goal, and how do we get there? Obviously, we have the empowering individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities themselves and providing the right resources for those individuals. But also we have to bring along the community. We have to bring along employers and businesses and just everyday individuals in our journey and, educate them about disabilities and educate them on how they can be an ally or an advocate for others around them. Two groups we also support. These groups are technically underneath of our 5013C that you might be more familiar with as well, the Columbus Autism Network and the Columbus Area Down Syndrome Support Group. The Down Syndrome Support Group has their annual Buddy Walk in the fall. And actually the Autism Network is currently getting ready to kick off their autism virtual event for May, or for April coming up. So they heavily support us financially with these fundraisers, and we collaborate, but they also do events and items on their own that are more specific to their families. Self-advocacy falls right in line with what we do for our self-advocates and areas that we want to continue to see our group grow as well. So to be a true self-advocate for yourself, we're helping our individuals learn to speak up for themselves, to problem solve, and also just to know their rights, that individuals with intellectual disabilities have just as many rights as others. And unfortunately, we do see our legislation affecting, unfortunately, that. And so how can we fight for equal justice and move the needle for individuals with disabilities? One thing, particularly, some of you might know Brandon Bowes. He's pretty passionate about a piece of legislation that focuses on marriage for individuals with disabilities. And so currently, if an individual with a disability is receiving Medicaid, Social Security, the Medicaid waiver, they're on a fixed income. And if they make more than about $2,000 a month or have more than a bit of savings, they can be penalized and lose those services. Well, losing Medicaid for someone who needs $500 or more of subscriptions a month or needs day-to-day support care is not an option. And so unfortunately, this legislation says that if you get married to someone, they will take into consideration your spouse's income. And so it basically, you see many individuals with disabilities not getting married, intellectual or just physical disability, because they might be losing their state support just to be able to get by. And so things like that, we've got some pretty passionate individuals about. So more specific to Action Club, I think, as you've heard from Jake and his mom and myself, we are a mixture of volunteer, very social, and outreach group. I think this group is a great group of friends. And one thing we've really tried to think about is how can we grow our membership, and maybe how can the Kiwanis members help us with that. We know there's a lot of adults out there in our community with developmental disabilities, and we're trying to figure out, how can we make sure to engage them, that they're supported socially and developmentally. Of course, COVID has not helped with that, but that's one of the challenges that we're working on going forward. We also want to continue to build the partnerships with you all. As Steve mentioned, I think we're going to try to invite self-advocates to more frequent Kiwanis meetings, and potentially when they start getting in person and we have self-advocates who are comfortable, maybe having them come and attend and not necessarily even talk, just to be a guest and engage and play bingo or hear about different things that are in our community. And so we're hoping that you guys are willing to participate in that. And then the other thing is inclusive volunteer opportunities. We would love to hear and partner with your group when there are volunteer opportunities. I think that's one thing we could continue to grow. Again, non-COVID times, we would do some things at the nursing homes and do some volunteering at Love Chapel. But if there's events like this Easter egg hunt or things like that that you need support on, we would definitely be interested in connecting for those types of things. And finally, we want to continue to figure out how we can work on our life skills training. Like I mentioned, our self-advocate meetings do tend to sometimes be more social. Occasionally we have presentations about nutrition or finance or these types of things. And we're hoping that we can build some mini programs within our program. So maybe a 10 to 15 minute presentation each month about a life skills topic to help individuals continue to grow their self-advocacy skills. And especially for some of those newer members that we're hoping to get who are fresh out of high school and might be learning that whole world. Again, because like I said, we have a wide spectrum of developmental and intellectual disability who are self-advocates. Some need more support. Some are, like I said, living almost independently. So that's, I believe, my last slide, and I thought I put it in there, but I did not. But 2 ways you can support us other than obviously Action Club, which we're hoping through Steve and Dick we can continue that growth, is you can become a member of the ARC. That is a nice way to, a fairly affordable way to support our mission through the ARC and ultimately supports self-advocates as well. But we are also selling coupon books. So typically the ARC has a fundraiser called what is that called? Always Ready for Chocolates. And unfortunately, again, due to COVID, we have had to cancel that. And instead, we created a coupon book. So I'm going to share my screen one more time. We found a way to have a fairly low effort fundraiser. Although I always learned that even things you think are low effort take more time than you think. But we also wanted to support our local businesses. And so at no cost to our businesses locally, they were able to submit a coupon idea and more or less free advertising for them. Obviously, when people use the coupon, there's a discount for them, but we are extremely grateful. As you can see, we had a ton. I'm hoping you can see this.
Yeah, we're seeing.
Okay, a ton of businesses locally. You realize through this how many businesses we have in Columbus. All of these are locally owned businesses or a franchise. I think we got Dairy Queen in there, but Dairy Queen downtown, everyone knows that those are a great local family behind that. And so had some great sponsors, but we are selling those. You can find us. I will share this link in the chat, but on our website, and that again goes to supplement our lost revenue due to some of our lost events. So there are about 50, almost 50 coupons, I believe. And over, like, I think when I did the math last time, almost $1,000 in savings. So everything you can find from food to clothes or give it as a gift, financial services, chiropractor. But being creative, that is what this year is full of. All right, so Steve, I didn't know if you wanted to talk any more about potential, ideas regarding the partnerships and engagement page, or if this is something to think about, and we'll come back.
Yeah, thanks again for your presentation. I think in the interest of time, we're pretty much out of time, but when Grace and I and Dick and Mark Hevitt that runs the Action Club meetings met earlier this week, we talked about some ways to connect. One of those, again, to bring some of the self-advocates on to our program to help them volunteer service. We're also kind of like our transformational living ministry fellows that are in their program, running a survey to the members of the Action Club, I should say, and these young adults, and have them indicate what kind of needs they have, and then gear, as Grace indicated, a short 10-minute part of the meetings, the monthly meetings, to dedicate it to, again, similar things that we did with the transformation, like how to keep a checkbook, how to interview. I was really proud of one of my former students at Clifty, who's fetal alcohol syndrome, FAS, and he has held a job at Walmart for the past 6 years and received a special pin for 6 consecutive years of service. And he's overcome that disability with the loving care of his parents, who I had the pleasure of knowing and working with during the time he was a student at Clifty. And so there's a lot of opportunities out there to do that. And I think we'll continue to search for those. And I think anything time we have a volunteer thing, whether it's the egg hunt or it's making a meal to serve to the public or whatever it might be, I think this is a great opportunity to include these people, because they need to know and be around other people just to be part of a group. I mean, they're so self-knit. I think Kim talked about how close they are together, and this is another opportunity to kind of extend their family, so to speak. I think it's a great opportunity. So we'll continue to look for those. But Kim, Grace, thanks so much for being with us today and imparting all the great information, and keep up the great work on your behalf too. Dick, do you want to give us thank you. Dick, you want to give us a quick lead in on the final meeting of Bob's going to be here next week, real quick?
Yes, Bob is with the chamber. He's the individual who is responsible for membership at the Chamber of Commerce. And he's going to go ahead and talk with us a little bit about how to, jointly work on membership. He was one of the ones that we talked to. the young, young group has had an issue here in Columbus. They have not been meeting regularly, and they're wanting to go ahead and with Bob and everybody and try to find a way to go ahead and reach those individuals. But so he's going to be there to talk with us about some ideas for membership. I'm sure that they're suffering from the same thing we are now. Obviously, they have about 600 members in the chamber, different companies, but and he's now been there. He used to be with Bert's termite system, but he's now taken over, and he's been with the chamber as membership director for about the last 9 months.
Thank you, Dick. That'll be an interesting meeting. We are working on membership, and Jeff, you and I got to get together with our speaker in May and make sure we kind of connect there. I know that's coming up and down the road here pretty quick too, so that'll sneak up on us. So a lot of opportunities, I think, to enhance and increase our membership as well. And this will be a great talking with and interacting with Bob next week. So hope you'll be able to join us. Thanks to Jim and John. They got the April meetings. I know that Jim was on earlier, and John, I think, is still with us. Yep. They've got some programs lined up and some very interesting things to share during the month of April. So let's conclude with the pledge, and then we'll let you go for the week and that kind of thing. And again, thanks for being with us. So I pledge
allegiance to the flag
of the
of the United States of America,
and to the
republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks very much for all of you being with us today. Have a great weekend. I hope you don't get your bracket busted this first week.